What's going on, everyone? It's your boy Ben and JB from JBM Sports Media coming at you guys with our college football Peach Bowl prediction. Yes, we are talking about the matchup right here between the Oregon Ducks and the Indiana Hoosiers. What a matchup this is. We all wanted this matchup after round two. We all were wanting this matchup. Dante Moore, Fernando Mendoza going at it right here in the Peach Bowl, and winner goes to the national championship game. JB, I'll throw it right to you. What do you think about this game? Just give me your thoughts and your opinions on this one right here.
So it's going to be pretty amazing, and not only just for this game, but, it means so much that, the winner of this goes to the championship. But the fact that these two quarterbacks, Dante Moore and, Mendoza, they are going to be headlining the first two picks probably of the NFL draft. So, basically, I guess you could pick whoever you want going number one or going number two. Right now, I guess I would say it would be Moore going one and Mendoza going two, just because I think he has a little bit more of a skill set. But I wouldn't be surprised if Mendoza does go one and Moore goes two.
Right.
But, I do really think this is going to be a fantastic game. And not for nothing, I think, Indiana's defense doesn't get enough credit. I think they're going to be really good defensively. But also Oregon is obviously looking to to come back after a loss to Indiana. Their only loss was to Indiana this year.
Yep, exactly.
So I think that there's a lot on the line for both teams, but I think Oregon has a little bit more blood in the water when it comes to revenge. So I'm really interested to see what they're going to do. And as far as Indiana, it's all about how they do. Obviously stopping the run and also how they run the football, taking the pressure off Mendoza a little bit. So I think it's going to be like a mid-level, high-scoring game. It could be. I could see like a 31-28 or a 34-30, something along those lines. But I could also see it being a little more conservative and being like a 24-17 or 24-20 type deal,
Right.
a little bit less low-scoring. But I honestly, I want to say Indiana is going to win this game, but I wouldn't be surprised if Oregon really came and took this game and moves on to the championship. So. But you know what? I'll just to pick somebody. I will say Indiana's going to win this football game.
All right. Not to get into my prediction just yet. Thinking about this game after the two previous matchups, Indiana obviously trounced the living crap out of Alabama, and then Oregon shut out Texas Tech, which was an absolute shutout. I mean, that defense went nuts. The thing more so keys for Oregon. Can they pick up the offense and get it going a little bit earlier than they did in that game against Texas Tech? I think they can. I think if Dante Moore, he's going to have to use his feet in this game. I think there's no doubt about that. Indiana's defense and the way that they pressure the quarterback, it's going to be a tough task for Dante Moore. But I do believe he's going to be able to use his feet, get those extra yards, and create opportunities down the field. I could see Sadiq, our tight end, having a big game right here. Unfortunately, our running back Davidson is going to be out for this one, so that hurts. Noah Winnington, I think, will be playing, but I'm not sure. I think he was questionable. I think he'll be playing, though. For Indiana, I think the key for them is just attack on the run, attack, pound the rock. Even though I do believe Oregon's run defense is pretty decent, if they could pound the rock a little bit, how they were doing it against Alabama, that opens gaps and that opens plays for Mendoza to succeed down the field. And you know what? I could see Mendoza having maybe not the biggest passing game. Maybe he throws for 150, but maybe a very efficient game for him. That's what I'm looking at for Mendoza at QB. Dante Moore, I think, he had a bad turnover in that game against Texas Tech. He got to be a little bit more smart with his decision-making. But if the big play is there, I thought, Dan Lanning was a little bit conservative at times in that Texas Tech game. And I didn't quite like that as an Oregon fan. I think in a game like this, winner goes to the national championships. I'm currently watching the Ole Miss and Miami game. Miami's up 17-13 right now as we speak. But it's a shot. It's a shot for either one of these teams to win the national championship. Not that these two teams are stepovers that are playing right now. But obviously, either Oregon or Indiana, in my opinion, would be favored in the national championship compared to Miami or Ole Miss. So I think this game is going to be a tough battle. Like you said, I could see it to mid-scoring. Maybe I could see a 20-17, maybe a 21-18, something in that regard. Maybe a 21-17, actually. But when it comes to my winner, I'm not just saying this because I'm biased. Oregon's defense in the last game impressed me so much that they got that shutout against Texas Tech. Yes, you could talk about the competition that Texas Tech had, absolutely, during the regular season. But I think I have Oregon squeaking out a victory right here and beating the Indiana Hoosiers. Not that I don't think that Curt Cignetti is going to have a great play calling in this game. I actually beg to differ. I think there's going to be moments in this game that he outcoaches Dan Lanning. I just do believe when it matters most, I trust that Oregon's defense is going to stop the Hoosiers' offense, and I believe that's where Oregon will have the advantage right there. Maybe they get a turnover or two. I do believe I could see that being the case. Mendoza had a turnover in their first encounter in that pick six. They did beat us in Oregon, though. They did beat us, like you said. That is a great point, JV. Very close contest all the way to the end. This is going to be a great game. I'm so excited. I kind of wish these two teams were in the other side of the bracket so we could get it in the actual championship and not in the semifinal. But regardless, I am going with Oregon. I'm going to say 21-17, the Ducks pull it off and head off to the national championship.
Yeah, listen, and like I said, that's 100%. It's 100% doable. That this to me is a 50-50 toss up. But I have some keys that I think for Indiana and Oregon. I'll start off with Indiana. I think the biggest keys for them, I think they have to control the clock a little bit better. I think sometimes they're a little too lackadaisical and they forget that there's a clock that's rolling. Because they're so methodical. They really are methodical, and they I think they like to think about each play, as it's going to happen, and they take too much time off the clock. So I think a little bit better clock management. And for Oregon, I think they have to force Indiana into long third downs. I think that's a key. And I also think for them offensively, if they could run the football and take some pressure off of Moore, I think that's going to be so pivotal to how Dante Moore plays the rest of that game. You don't want one of these guys to have to put the game in their hands via the pass game. I think that's where they're going to get into too much trouble because these defenses, like you said, they're just too good. I mean, Indiana was tops nationally. Oregon, the way they've been playing the last 4 or 5 games, has been really telling. And, I think if you're going to put the game into your quarterback's hands because, your run game is not efficient, that's where someone's going to run into a problem. And I think Oregon, if they do that to Indiana, it's going to be a long day for Mendoza. I don't think Mendoza wants to be in a situation where he's throwing the football all game. So I think if clock management is going to be a big thing for me, and whoever makes the most turnovers and forces the most turnovers will win this football game.
Yeah, and I do believe if you put it on paper, Indiana in the season that they've had, this is one of their best seasons in quite some time. Could we say there's a little bit of maybe it plays into a factor experience in a game like this? Some of the Oregon players, obviously, tough Rose Bowl loss last year. Indiana hasn't really been in a big game like this, a semifinal game like this, in quite some time. So will that play a factor into it as well? I think it possibly can for certain players. I will say that.
And I think that's a great point actually, because I just was thinking about something I forgot to say. I think if Oregon can strike early, that'll put Indiana on its heels.
Yeah.
First blood. I think if Oregon can draw first blood, that'll really bruise the ego of Indiana a little bit. Not
Absolutely.
saying that the game is going to get out of hand and they're not going to know how to handle themselves, but I do think if they take that first punch, they're not going to really know. Like they'll be like, oh my God, they just punched us right in the chin. Like they came to play. Like, you know what I mean? So
yeah,
I think it's important for Oregon to jump out early. And when I say jump out early, I mean if they could get like a 7-0 or a 10-0 lead, at the end of the first quarter and really like put their their fingerprints on this game, that could be something else. But I do think that if they strike early, they could really have a difference in this game.
I do agree with that. Obviously, a lot of people are going to be looking at this game for the obvious factor of the number 1 overall pick. I pulled it up earlier. I'll pull it up again. Dante Moore, Fernando Mendoza, Las Vegas Raiders, and not just the Raiders, behind them, the New York Jets, JV's favorite team, right there. Look at his face right there. The New York Jets. Obviously, these two quarterbacks are probably going to be 1 and 2, if we're being realistic. Will this game, I'll throw it to JV, will this game potentially hurt one of their stocks if they have a bad game?
A bad game, I would say it definitely is. It will definitely be a smear on such a good resume for both guys. But just because it's such a big game, I think if they have a good game and lose, that'll be fine.
Yeah,
I think if they aren't the reason why their team's lost, if they don't make a big turnover, if they're efficient and they just lost a good hard fought game, I think they'll be fine in regards to them being 1 or 2. Now, obviously, does the winner get the number 1 pick? I don't really know if that's how it's going to go. I would say yes. But statistically, I just think it depends on the body of work that these two guys put out, and not really saying the winner is automatically the first overall pick.
Right.
If Dante Moore has a better game than Mendoza, but somehow Oregon loses, there's a lot of things to think about. It's we may be sitting here saying, Oregon should have won that game. Dante Moore had 4 touchdowns, but their defense gave up 520 yards. Something crazy like that.
Yeah.
You have to take that into consideration. So, yeah, I think it's going to be very interesting to see how the Raiders, obviously, because the pressure's on them, it's going to be interesting to see how they go. For some reason, I do see them going Mendoza. That's just how I feel. But, I wouldn't mind a guy like Dante Moore if the Jets were able to snag him. So, only time will tell.
Only time will tell. Talking about Dante Moore specifically, because the consensus is that maybe Mendoza could take that leap and get the first overall pick, which it would be him. Right now, if you check on FanDuel, he's actually the favorite to go number 1 in this upcoming draft. Let me find the exact clip right here. Stephen A. Smith, actually, in First Take yesterday. There's 2 clips, but I'll just pull up the quote real quick. Apologies for that. Let me remove this. Here it is. All right. He said this about Oregon QB Dante Moore. He should return to the Ducks instead of potentially playing for the Jets. Specifically, he said, I'd go back to college before I play for the Jets. They are a football atrocity. They are awful. This is what Stephen A. said. Before I get your thoughts on this, the one and only Garrett Wilson replied to this, actually, funny enough. He said, damn, you got to be a real sellout and above all a square to be on ESPN nowadays. Used to love that show. All right, that's that. But we're not done yet, folks. Let me just remove that real quick. Stephen A. then responded today on First Take and said, did I stutter? The Jets are horrible. You haven't been in the playoffs for 15 years. They haven't been in it since you were in junior high school. It looks like these two were obviously going at it. I want to get your thoughts and opinion on this, JV, obviously. This Garrett Wilson, Stephen A. Smith situation right here, especially because Dante Moore, if he does go to the Jets, it looks like Garrett Wilson is obviously intrigued for, at least in my mind, chances of him being the quarterback of the Jets.
Absolutely. Listen, I can't say I disagree with Stephen A. And I'm not saying that his remarks are going to literally influence what Dante Moore wants to do, in his career. I think when you are a college athlete and you're on the precipice of being drafted, obviously you may have a personal preference of where you like to go. Maybe you like warm weather. Maybe you want a small city. Maybe you want a big city.
Right.
But sometimes that's just not how it works. It doesn't work that way. It's there is a draft order. There is a way it's set. And sometimes you may land with a city or a team that, you really didn't expect to go to, or you were hoping that you weren't going to go to. But you have to also understand you're playing professional sports. You're being given an opportunity to play a professional sport, something that most people can't do. I know I can't do it. That's why the best thing I can do is sit here and talk about it.
Right.
But listen, I played sports competitively, and I knew that from a young age that I wasn't going to be a professional athlete, and I made it fun for myself.
Yeah,
these guys, obviously, it's competitive for these guys, so they take it personally. So I'm not going to get on Garrett Wilson for the way he responded either. He's taking more a shot at ESPN. And their platform. But I can't blame Stephen A. Smith for what he said. The Jets are atrocious. They are an atrocity. I was 21 years old when they last made the playoffs, bro. I'll be 38 in March. So literally in 2 months. March 7th is my birthday. So literally 2 months from yesterday, I'll be 38 years old, and this team will have missed the playoffs, going on 17 years. So
Right.
What are we talking about? I mean, it's been putrid since 2010. Their last winning season was 2015. They went 10-6 and still didn't make the postseason. So that just shows you how bad they've been. But like I said, I can't get mad at Garrett Wilson. Do I think it's going to alter the decision making for Dante Moore? I think if he has smart people around him, they'll tell him, listen, Stephen A. has a job to do. He's trying to be entertaining. He's trying to get people to watch the show. It's just an opinion.
Right. Yeah.
Don't think that way. Like whoever you go to, make it work. Nobody was talking about Shador Sanders going to the Browns and being in a situation like that. Where he was like basically fourth on the depth chart on the Cleveland Browns when they had Dylan Gabriel starting over him and guys like
Yeah.
Joe Flacco starting over him, which is absolutely ridiculous to even have
Yeah.
to think about. Never mind actually watch. So there's some bad situations all over the league that you could make good. So I don't think it's a big deal. I think it's just Stephen A. being Stephen A. and him just trying to get people to watch the show. That's
And
really
this is
what I
what
think.
Garrett Wilson had said after Stephen A. Smith talked about it today in the show. Wilson's last rebuttal, he said, "Last thing I'm going to say on it, I listen and I ain't like it, but that's all okay. I just don't want bad advice going out. That was a bad career and financial advice that he himself wouldn't even take," which is right. Moore's not going to take that advice. Not to mention, yeah, I take some of it personal. All good. Go Jets, he said.
And listen, and he was a class act. He didn't get nasty. He didn't get degrading. It was a very good professional back and forth. Yeah, it might have been a little spicy. He said called him a square a little bit, and
Yeah.
he said it's kind of soft nowadays that platform, whatever the case may be. But listen, and he's right. Why would Dante Moore take that advice?
He's not. Yeah.
I don't know if he's even met Stephen A. Smith. I don't know if he's ever talked to him personally, but you gotta trust the people that are in your camp that are with you every day, making sure that you're well taken care of. And I'm sure that he, once he gets an agent, that agent's going to be like, "Listen, kid, obviously we're going to try to put you in the best situation, but if New York comes calling, we're going to answer the phone." So, that's just how it is. I mean, and also the best way to look at it too is we haven't won in so long. We haven't made it to the playoffs. If you go there and you're successful, you will automatically become a legend.
Yeah, Jets legend
automatically become a New York legend. I'm talking about like you could have the key to the city and your endless dreams.
Yeah, bro.
Will be forever granted. I mean, like it could be that type of fairy tale.
Absolutely.
So there is a big challenge. It's a big challenge, but I don't think he's ever going to be influenced by Stephen A. Smith. Yes, is Stephen A. right in a way? Absolutely. The Jets are atrocious. They are putrid. They need to fix everything possible with that organization, but I don't think it's going to affect the way Dante Moore feels about potentially playing in New York.
You're absolutely right. I think obviously there's been rumblings in general about Dante Moore potentially staying in Oregon one more year. Do I think that's going to happen? No, I don't believe so, because at the end of the day, I think if he knows that the Jets is a situation and he talks with his agent, he talks with his family, that could be a situation, how you just mentioned it. If he changes that franchise over there, which I believe no matter what, he shouldn't be starting. But even then, it's for him or Mendoza, to be fair. But I do think right now Mendoza is currently number one pick on the board. But if they go with Moore,
that's what I said.
If they go with Moore, I do believe that, bring in a veteran, maybe a 1-year deal for a Mac Jones or something like that. Let him sit under. Let him just see how stuff is playing out. God forbid the veteran gets hurt. That's when you have to implement him, I guess. And
right.
I think this is going to be smart for the Jets. I think he is going to declare for the draft. I would love to see him 1 more year for the Ducks, but also I would love to see him change a franchise. And I think he has the capability of doing that if they just go the right route on it. No Zach Wilson route, no Sam Darnold route. Go the right route on it, please. If not, this kid might be cooked.
Yeah, it might be cooked. We spoke about this the other day on the phone. The Jets, every time they draft a quarterback, they automatically start him. They don't sit him, and they don't let him learn. Maybe switch it up. Let him take the clipboard. Let him learn how things work on the sideline. Let him learn the NFL. Let him soak everything in instead of throwing him right in the fire. Because even though sometimes I think getting thrown right into the fire is a good thing, it just hasn't worked that way yet for the Jets. So switch it up. It's time to switch up your ways. It's been 15, 16 years since you've been relevant. Like, when are we going to sit here and start talking positive about the New York Jets? And then the other day, Woody Johnson was supposedly so upset how they ended the last month and a half of the season. How mad could you be when you're the one behind this team? You're controlling the reins.
You kept the coach.
And you kept the coach who, listen, I understand you want to give him, a legit shot. I know 1 year it's tough, but I would have fired him. I think 15 years of the
And you know what?
same
Stephen A.
thing.
Smith. Stephen A.
Because
Smith was saying
it's
that
the
they should have
same
fired
thing.
him.
They should have though. They should have. But I also listen. I also understand, like I said, why they kept him. They kept him because they want to give him a legitimate shot.
Yeah.
And a lot of things went wrong. A lot of guys we were a little banged up. You know, we fired a defensive coordinator who shouldn't have been there. Steve Wilkes' ass. I don't care. I really don't care. That guy is ass wherever he goes. He's been hot ass. We were just absolute garbage on defense. So that happened. You know, Justin Fields was garbage. Then he gets hurt, and we're going with backups and Brady Cook. It was just he was cooked. In all sense of sense of the word. But listen, Darren Mujib spoke, and then he was like, "We're going to be aggressive in free agency and the trade. It doesn't matter how we're going to be aggressive." So
they have money to spend.
That's good to hear. Go do that. Go draft a quarterback, and go sign a veteran. And let this kid learn on the sideline. That's the only thing I think they should do. Is if they draft whoever they draft, don't throw this kid into the fire. Have him sit for at least one season before you throw this kid into a game.
You guys have 2 picks in the first round, 16 and 2.
1 and 16, yeah. 2 and 16, yeah.
Make something work. I think you guys will. I think if I had to bet on it, looking back at this game, Jets fans, Raiders fans, they're both going to be looking at this game because who in their mind is more appealing? Obviously, this is a 7 o'clock. What a slate of football we have, by the way. Ole Miss, Miami right now currently, Oregon, Indiana, and then wildcard weekend. Absolutely beautiful football being played.
I mean, yeah, absolutely.
Can't ask for anything better. JB's going to be watching this game, I'm pretty sure, to dictate probably the next quarterback of his franchise. Hopefully it's I honestly, I have such belief in Dante Moore. Obviously, if you guys don't know, I am an Oregon Ducks fan. Him sitting behind Gabriel last year, there was times I was like, I kind of prefer this guy a little bit better. I think he has the higher ceiling. He's very talented. And now I've had him for 1 year. Hopefully we win tomorrow and we get the national championship. That would be the goal. And then I would be so happy saying, hey, beautiful run. Go succeed in New York. Go change that franchise, my boy.
And not for nothing, Stephen A. Smith, go back to his comment. It's not like if he came here, there's nobody that he'd be with. You got Garrett Wilson, Breece Hall. That's a decent start there. It's not like he's on an island by himself.
Y'all got money. Go get another receiver.
Go get another receiver. Go fix the O-line
with the 16th pick.
Go fix the D-line a little bit. Go get a pass rusher. Since we traded Quinn Williams, we'll get another pass rusher. And get some over the top help. Get some safety help. I don't know if you have to address that in the draft of the free agency. I'm not sure how they want to do that. I know a lot of teams don't like to spend money on safeties. They'd rather draft them or trade for them. So we'll see what happens. I think it would be the worst thing if he came here. I mean, like I said, he could be a legend if everything goes right.
If everything goes well, he could switch the franchise, do something what certain Jets quarterbacks haven't been able to do. But yes, we are all going to be anticipating watching this game. Hopefully my team wins. Go Ducks. JB got the Hoosiers, though. I got the Ducks. What was your final score, JB? I had 21-8. No, I had 21-17 Ducks winning. What was your final score?
I'm going to say, you know what? I'm going to say 24-17 Indiana.
All right, fair enough. All right, everybody, let us know your prediction to the Peach Bowl. Who do you guys have? Oregon, Indiana? Also, just the question, obviously. Who would you guys have with the number 1 pick if you guys are a Raiders fan or just even a football fan? Let us know. Who would you take? Dante Moore, Fernando Mendoza, pregame. Postgame, we'll have a reaction. JB will kind of get his thoughts, obviously. The next quarterback of his team is most likely playing in this game right here. So, as always, make sure that you guys are following JBM Sports Media for daily sports content here on YouTube. We've been going crazy. Subscribe here on YouTube. Follow on TikTok. Follow on IG. And we'll catch you guys on the next one. Peace.